like.
Also gonna start record.
Yeah. How about
Thank
you?
you.
It must be sometime in the afternoon for you, right?
Yeah, it's 18 now. We're waiting for people to come. We're organizing events every week and weekends. So there are people coming actually, coming to this space, because yeah, we're like a semi-open community. So we organize holistic events and create
Wow.
spaces. So we have like a sauna next to the river, so it's a very cold water into the river. So we do like ice baths and then go to the sauna. So it's like a nice contrast for the mind and the body to keep it going. And we
Amazing.
do dances every weekend. So they're coming for the dance and cacao. Okay. All right. I'm gonna stream now, going live. And we'll see if I can invite some people in and also admit all the people that are waiting in the room. I'm gonna test some sound here. Okay, it works. Some stuff. Connecting with my phone from another Instagram, so I can invite some people in. I'm gonna rock and roll. Getting close to that 11:11. When was I mean, that's like a pre-warm-up question. Well, when was the first time you realized synchronicities? Like, if you can remember.
I think that's a really good question. I've never been asked that question before.
Uh-huh.
Well, I think, one of the things that's interesting is when I got into gematria and numerology and decoding, I started to break away from this concept of the syncretism that's going on. And I think that has a lot to do with like the spell casting of teachers or the people that share their thoughts on something that they specialize in. So it took me about a year of decoding really intensely at like a professional level to get back to the synchronicity, to get back to the syncretism of everything and see that this is organic. There's very few events that are being manipulated by man. And that really allowed me to get back to my center. But as for when I realized the synchronicity that's going on in this realm, it's probably super early on. And I think it started with stuff like looking at a clock and seeing the 111 or the 1111, or thinking of somebody that means a lot to me. And then they just reach out to me out of nowhere. They send me a text message. It happens all the time. And it was little things like that that really brought it all together for me. But now where I'm at with the decoding and with looking at, when I was born versus where I was born and my mother's name compared to my name and my grandmother's name and the hospital, the person who
Okay.
invented the hospital I was born in, it starts to get really intense. It's like
You
almost too
you
much.
decoded this. Like you went back and researched it.
Yeah. Yeah, like my birthday numerology is the same birthday numerology as the guy who founded the hospital that I was born in. And his
Wow.
name equals the same in Chaldean gematria as my name. That's just, this kind of stuff starts to get a little off the rails, like when you really dive deeper into it. And again, there's so many forms of decoding, whether that be you are specialized in tropical astrology or sidereal astrology or Vedic astrology. Like, you really need to take some time to absorb all of this, spend time developing this almost intuitive sense so that whatever you're decoding has a relationship to each other, not just throwing around numbers or throwing around connections haphazardly. So we could definitely get more into that when you're
Yeah.
ready.
Yeah, sure. So it's already 11:12 for you, and it doesn't matter where we are because time is an illusion. So we're in the now. So thank you for, first of all, thank you for being here, Jordan. And thank you, each and one of you that are present here, either is in the now or in the coming days, if you see this recorded. I want to say that I feel honored to co-create this space with you, which I feel that I envisioned and set my intentions for this like 1.5 years ago when I started to watch your videos. That's the moment I also started to get into crypto and understand. I was also passionate to have a bit of background from my side. I am passionate about decoding. I studied human design for 5 years. I studied sociology, and then in high school, mathematics, informatics. So structured my logical and also abstract brain, and experimented on people. So for me, 2020 was a global experiment, and it was fun enough because I could see it happening. Like I could see the steps of it becoming more and more like totalitarian. And of course, I took the projection of being a conspiracy theorist. I stayed in my house 2 months so the curve can go down, but it didn't. So yeah, before that, my dream was to travel around the world from A to Z. And I started with Amsterdam. So I lived in Amsterdam for 3 years. And that's where I experimented a lot with like the global culture of Earth, and saw the patterns in cultures and how people interact. And I felt like something is missing from this place, this country, which is Romania. They call it the land of choice. And what Romania was missing was a space where people could be not judged, so they can like live freely, express themselves, respect each other, and grow together through engaging into a lot of activities. So I had this urge to come back to Romania, and I'm back for 2 years now. I didn't plan to stay, but everything happened in such a way that it's like I came, I started organizing holistic events, Corona came, and borders closed. So it's like, okay, I mean, I guess this is the experience I'll take now. So now I'm here with around 3-4 people permanently in Romania, in Hunedoara, next to a river and a forest. And we are organizing holistic events, 4 festivals per year, every solstice and equinox. And it's international based. So we have people from all over the world coming, and we're learning from each other. So that's our main goal. I would like to say more about you, but for me, you spoke with my soul. As first time I heard you, I was like, this guy speaks like me in a certain way. It's like it's like his words, I can read through the lines of the language that he uses because it's more like a resonation. It's a vibration that you use that spoke with my being. And I'm like, okay, he has something to say here. And then you started to say about the etymology of the words, and then going into my mythologies. So I would like to do like an introduction for all of you here watching also on Instagram. Hi guys. So to keep this loud and clear, if you have questions, we're gonna receive questions at the end of my questions. I have a big list here. We have 1.5 hours as far as I know. So we're gonna spill some truth beans. We're gonna get some spicy things coming as well. You choose, Waters, if it will be Indian spicy or American spicy. So I like Indian spicy, actually. So speaking about truth, would you like to say more about your truth? And what is your truth? Like,
well, first of all, I really appreciate you having me on. It really means a lot to me, and it's so beautiful to see that people all the way out in Romania could be interested in what I'm doing. Just really means the world to me, and I just want to let you know I appreciate you. I appreciate your community, and I know that you frequent a lot of my live streams, I believe. So you get to hear my perspective from a way that most people don't get to with my YouTube videos or my podcasts that I do over on my Patreon. And we do sometimes 3 hour, almost 4 hour live streams. So they're like marathon streams. And I kind of just try to sit back, channel in whatever's going on for me at that time. And I really just feel out where the energy is in the group. And it goes from things like, spirituality and mindset to health and wellness, relationships. And I'm starting to feel like over the last 2 years, we're all kind of coming to a position right now where we're learning our tribe. Like we're kind of figuring out who we are and who are our soulmates, right? Like who are the people
Mm,
that we're tethered to spiritually.
mm,
And one of the beautiful things about this internet is we now have this ability to communicate in this way where we're seeing that we could still share this frequency, we could still share this love without that human connection. And I just wanted to start with that because I think what you're doing by creating a physical space where people could actually physically go and have that sense of community is beautiful. And I wish more people were motivated to do that. And I speak to my community quite often, don't wait around for me because I'm the hermit. I'm hermituitous. I'm like the boy and his
mm.
dog. I'm the
All
fool
right.
card. And I want people that are in my community who do want to develop this community in whatever format, whether that be something that is on a farm or something that's in a city. It doesn't really matter. It's just people need to take action right now because the next psyop that happens, whether that be some sort of lockdown or that be some sort of military coup or martial law, well, if 1% of the population was doing what you are doing right now, that would be all it would take to end this insanity, this insane asylum we
I
call
know.
society.
I
So it
know,
only
man.
takes 1%. And I just wanted to kick it off with that because I think that's, a motivating factor for people to realize that you don't need numbers. You don't need a ton of people to pull off this amount of change. And if there's anything that we could promote in the world right now, it would be to revive a sense of community. It's not about agreeing with people. I don't want people to agree with me. Doesn't fucking matter. I want
Yep.
us to be able to dance together. I want us to be able to laugh and cry together. I want us to make music together. The more we could do that, we're not worried about agreeing and disagreeing. And I think that's the space that I wanted to fill in this so-called truth community because I don't think I would be called a truther by most people. A lot of my outlook and my perspective is almost anti what a lot of them believe in. And that's the key word right there, belief. People fail to realize that all people do with this so-called truth movement is they promote their current level of belief into a new level of belief, and all they're doing is replacing one way of perceiving for a new. And then in this event they keep things in duality. So when they get promoted from globe earth to flat earth, then they start looking at the people who believe in globe earth as a new enemy, even though they were once there. And look at what that does. It's just maintaining this left right duality consciousness. And I've noticed this in humans. They have this fetish for wanting division, even though they think that they're becoming more enlightened. So enlightenment is some for the majority, it's the most egoic and materialistic and destructive word. When I look
Mm.
at the word enlightenment, I think of it starting with self, right? And in order to become the best version of yourself, you need to be able to look outward and see the reflection. You need to be able to see yourself and other people. So the same people that you no longer have the same set of beliefs, you're still an extension of them as much as you're an extension of Mother Nature. That strawberry bush outside your house has something to teach you. And if you're going to look around at this world like everything's an enemy because it doesn't believe what you believe, then there's never going to be a true sense of community in this world.
Wow. That's such a complex answer that you already answered a couple of my questions. But it's very nice to hear you be in the state of flow, because I also enjoy those states of flow where you kind of have the continuity to do it forever. Like you don't even realize that it's like 3 hours already. Oh, holy shit, I gotta go. And I do
Right.
this from time to time on my Instagram lives, especially last night. I did one for 2 hours and I didn't. So, is there any objective truth? And do you believe in it?
I believe where we're at with anything is just where we're most comfortable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's really what the so-called truth movement is. It's just a big comfort movement. And whenever something comes in that has a different perspective, it starts to be like Ares, like the god of war has shown up in their arena,
Mm.
and now they have an issue. Now they have a battle. Instead, they should be having a dance. So I don't really give too much of a shit over what people believe about truth or not. I say quite often that truth is an individual, it's an individual system. It's a system in and of itself that starts within your mind. Your mind palace is what designs whatever truth is and how it's going to operate with other people's truths. And the idea that there's a unified truth is exactly how cults develop. It's exactly how mainstream religion develops. So if we
Mm.
want to save ourselves and truly be sovereign, we will have to get back to the self and be aware that our mind palace, the way that it designs whatever it designs through its belief and through level of comfortability, is how we'll be able to integrate. So the last thing I'll say on this is get get more comfortable being uncomfortable.
Ho to that, my friend.
So when you go jump into the ice bath, the reason why it's evoking this essence out of you is because you're not fucking comfortable. And that is exactly where you become light. You no longer are the body anymore. You extend out of it, and you become more etheric again. So if people want to get better at deciphering what's going on here and really getting closer to truth, just get more comfortable being uncomfortable. And this is going to require you to take your pride and put it on the sidelines, because your pride is the only mechanism that really wants to keep you maintaining this current belief system. One last thing I would say is I've never been to Romania. I don't know anything about Romania. So imagine I went there with my understanding of culture, and every little thing, every nuance that didn't align with where I was at with my current experience of life, and I was bringing that to you almost as if you guys need to change your way.
Mm.
That's the same thing. And that's what people who have truth and believe in universal truths, that's what they tend to do. They're going into someone else's culture and saying, "Oh, I don't like the way you guys talk. I don't like the way you dance. I don't like the food you make." And how would you respond to that? Right? Well, then go
Mm.
fuck yourself. Go somewhere else. I'm just being real. I'm being
No, no,
real.
no.
I'm
Yeah,
being real
yeah.
here.
I
But
love it.
if I have something called unconditional love, then I'm gonna go to Romania. I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. I'm gonna keep my ears open. I'm gonna keep my heart open. I'm gonna keep my soul open. And I'm gonna say, "Hey, brother, I want to know. Show me this place. Show me what you like to eat. Show me how you like to dance. Tell me the jokes that you guys like to tell." I'm allowing you. I'm allowing you to be you. And I hope that in return you allow me to be me. And that's love. That's true love. And that's where we expand.
Love is allowing. That's the most beautiful thing that I heard in the last like couple of weeks, and embodied it. The whole allowing is like all the emotions to flow, like the river that is always flowing. Uh, wow. Yeah, amazing. Yeah. If you want to come to Romania, I'm not gonna tell anyone. Shh. So because our topic for today is becoming sovereign, and you started with this as well about becoming sovereign, how does one become sovereign, and what does sovereignty mean to you, Jordan?
It's the antithesis of obedience.
Oh my.
So if you want to become sovereign, you must never be obedient, ever. And that obedience is exactly how mainstream religion perpetuates. It's how government fetish perpetuates, or believing in politicians, if you will. It's how cults work. It's how, I mean, everything. When you're watching people who are looking at the World Cup They're watching football on the screen, and their so-called favorite player is misses the goal, and then they get mad at that player. That's showing that they have this addiction to someone else's reality that has nothing to do with their own life. They're feeling feelings of somebody else through a television. That is like an extra layer of a reality tunnel that they're separating from their own reality. That's slavery. So when we talk about sovereignty, it is so much more than your body. It is more than your government's laws. It's more than a lockdown. It's your mind. Slavery starts in the mind. And if you can't overcome that, I don't care if you're out in the middle of a forest with your own water well and you have your little hut. You might think your body is free, but if your mind palace is in shackles, you're still a slave. So you have to free that first. And the way you free that is through your heart. So it's a practice of moving from your mind to your heart. And that's where you can start to access your intuition again. So what does intuition do when you start to, when you're experiencing life? You have the ability to be obedient, which is you going with the flow and you listening to the orders that they tell you, you being agreeable, because this is another, we could go even deeper. Let's just say you're out on a date with a girl and she starts talking about, listening to Britney Spears or whatever, just stuff that you don't, stuff that you don't resonate with at all. And just because she's pretty, you decide to go, oh yeah, that's great. That's cool that you listen to Britney. You see what you're doing.
Yeah.
You see what you're doing. You're going against truth. You're going against truth and you're being obedient. And that's a form of slavery, because all of that is going to end up to you being with the wrong person. And you're making decisions based on materialism, based on the physical attributes of this person. You're not making those decisions because of your true intuition. You're going against your intuition. So I'll cap it up by saying sovereignty starts in the mind. And if you could overcome that, then you could overcome all things. And when you start to become truly sovereign in your mind and you do not obey, you start to become more abundant. You are no longer a lack-based individual. Anytime that somebody tries to cast a lack onto you, you just push it away. Anytime that the system tries to cast a lack onto you, you push that away. Every time somebody tries to minimize you, you disregard. And at the other side, every time somebody holds you up and wants to grow with you, you bring that person closer to you. So you're always on this, dance. It's infinite. And this is a beautiful thing about, deciding and choosing and being self-reliant instead of letting someone else decide and choose for you and you being obedient.
Speaking about obedience, we had quite an interesting period since 2020, because people realized or didn't realize what obedience is and had a lot of biases, trusting authorities. And as I said, studying sociology and experimenting on people with social experiments caught me up in a urge to speak my truth and say things out loud and be the rebel, be like the rainbow warrior, as I would like to call it. And I was never obedient. And wherever I went, I didn't wear a mask. And I was like, I don't have to. This is not my choice. And then nobody chooses for me. And speaking about obedience, what do you think is the next Messiah? Because this is how reality works. You have the Hegelian dialect, you have the problem, the reaction, the solution. And this is just, I think, the first wave. The pandemic started as a thing. Now it comes the economic crisis, maybe, and then what's gonna be next? What do you think? What do you feel?
Yeah. So this might drop into some of the lower chakras for a moment, because
Let's
I know
go.
this isn't always fun to get into, but I think the next engineered crisis will actually be with food. It'll be hyperinflation, and it'll be with food. So it's not going to be a food shortage. It's going to be that food will start becoming too expensive. You're going to be priced out of the foods that you normally could afford. So they're going to start with everyday household items like things like eggs, butter, milk, bread, meat, the basic stuff that most people in the world consume. Then
Mm-hmm.
once that becomes to a place where it's starting to get, above and beyond, you're also probably going to see simultaneously that energy, like oil prices, are going to continue to go up. And then this is going to make the transportation of all things, well, of course, it's going to cost more. And that's how food moves in this system. That's the logistics
Yep.
of it all. And just
True.
naturally, by having gas go up in price, you're going to have all food go up in price. And then also from the global trading perspective, like foreign exchange, you're going to see wheat is going to go up a lot, and beans and rice, etc. So I already told people though about a year ago, probably more than a year ago, and I don't know if you were following my work then, but I was
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
that I don't think the virus is going to be a thing anymore. That's done. They use that very effectively, and now it's no longer going to work. And now they're going to move on to a new thing, but they used that year or 2 year period as an energy harvesting experiment. They wanted to see, also they wanted to test your behavior, they wanted to test your obedience. So now they've been able to map out across the whole world who are the most obedient cities, the most obedient nations, the most willing. Now they know. So
Yeah.
they don't need to use fake virus anymore. Now they're going to use something else. And also there's another component to this, which is they already captured very, very, it's hard for me to even say this, man. They've captured a significant amount of people who've inoculated themselves. So
Holy shit.
they've gotten enough of that to the point where it's going to start to degrade the body on a cellular level. You're going to start to see blood coagulating, and it's going to really lead to the demise of this person over perhaps a 5 to 10 year period. And depending on your current state of health, this could be happening almost instantaneously or within a 1 to 2 year period. So very, very fast. So just think about this. This is very, very holistic. They had people sitting in their houses, not getting enough sunlight. They were not going out and exercising. They were probably not communicating with too many people. So they were naturally holding their immune system back from being able to integrate and be more symbiotic with everyone else's, which is a huge part of why germ theory is a hoax. Then after that 2 year period, they let you loose, but then they include this vaccine conversation. Now their people are inoculated, which we know what that causes. That's been going on since
Yep.
polio. Then you have the next layer to this, which is that food prices are going to go up very substantially. So people are going to start changing their food purchases. They're going to start consuming more ultra processed, cheaper foods. And we all know that health is from within. So it's what you consume is what will change your state of being. So if you're going to shift from eating, let's just say, normal meat to now you're eating like processed hamburgers that are frozen that you microwave, you're taking such a hit on you get where I'm going with this. And
Yep. Yeah.
I don't even consume flesh. So I'm looking at this at the perspective of the 99% of humanity. The overwhelming majority is going to go through that shift. So this pricing out thing, this hyperinflation event, and how the rest of this year is going to go, that's only one component. The second component is layoffs. So we're going to see a lot more people just naturally losing their jobs. This matrix world, as we know it, where people work a 9 to 5 job and people like they have that, just the normal life that we used to watch over the past, 100 years, that's coming to its end. We're going to watch a new world move in, and the infrastructure was laid out in 2019, 2020. By 2024, the mission will be mostly complete. And then we have the last phase of all of this, which is central bank digital currencies and some form of blockchain-based economy system. And that'll happen at the Federal Reserve and central banking level.
Yeah.
That's your problem, reaction, solution, by the way. That's it.
Yes. Yeah. I got it. It cracked me when you said about like obedience and the fact that, as a fact that Romania was the only green country in Europe that had the least infections with COVID in 2021 winter. You know why? Because we didn't get vaccinated, like in proportions of 60 to 70%. And all the Europe was like, what is this?
Yeah.
Well, that was
So I'm
years
assuming that
ago.
the Romanian people aren't as they don't believe in the system as much as maybe other European nations do. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true because we went through communism and we had a lot of shit like that. I mean, I
Yeah.
was not because I'm like 28, but my
You're
parents and grandparents went through a lot of shit. So they don't trust any government laws that are not
right.
laws. And they're like, yeah. And the Romanian people are like, they're very revolutionary, you know? But you really
Yeah.
need to do a lot of things to really like make them go into the streets. Like, because we already have like, I think minimum wage is around, let me do a quick math, is around 500 to 600 euros per month. And cost living is crazy. It's like Amsterdam living, cost
Really?
living. Yeah. So
Oh,
I think
I would have assumed it would be a cheaper place to live. I didn't know that it was
it's actually cheap in some parts, but like big cities like Bucharest
yeah.
or Cluj, yeah, there's fucking
Yeah.
European cities, man. And
Yeah.
yeah, excuse my French, Instagram. Oh, awesome stuff. Because we were talking, and yeah, word is made of language, and all is mental. I'm gonna ask you like a question now. It's like I'm super curious. I came up with this last night when I had this conversation with a friend of mine from high school. And it's like, who are you without thoughts? If you don't have thoughts, who would you be? What would
Your
you
feelings. You
your
would be
feeling?
your feelings. Without thoughts, your feelings.
Mm-hmm. It's
And
just
when you're
emotion.
no, I think emotion is more of a thought of a feeling.
All right. Good
I
one.
know it's like a clear pill moment, right? Like it is the feeling is something that's indescribable. It's also like truth, and this is something we need to consider, right? There's a philosophical idea, and I want to get deep into it on my live stream that I'm going to do tomorrow. But it's like when people have this belief that God created us, is that really true, or did our mind create God?
Oh my
No, it's
God.
we created God. We create, so that makes us gods just by default because we created God. God didn't create us. You can look back to the Upanishads and you could look in cultures where they don't even consider a God. This is an ultra new concept of there being this external God that so somewhat created us. If you go back into the Egyptian story, or sorry, I won't even go that far. Let's go kind of more recent, just a couple of thousand years ago. If you go to the Egyptian and Roman mythologies and you read out their
Yeah.
stories, they don't speak of this God the way that we get with the Abrahamic religions.
Mm.
So I don't want to get religious. I just want to speak basic right now. God didn't create us, our mind created God. So what is beyond our mind's thoughts are feelings. And those feelings are indescribable. And that's why when you're hugging somebody or you see something beautiful, like you climb to the top of a mountain and you see the view, when it just takes over you, when it takes over your sense of description, when you can no longer find words to even tap into to describe what's happening, it's a sense of beingness. And in that
Mm-hmm.
sense, in that present moment, that's where you tap into God. You literally become source because you're the feelings now. You no longer need words and adjectives and you don't need to describe anymore. It's boundless. It's like being in love. When you're in that when you they call it like butterflies in your stomach,
Mm-hmm.
where you'd start
When
talking
you're
with
in love.
somebody and it's just you're in love. Isn't that such a beautiful phase of like the communication? Like you get to a point where there's no words anymore, there's no emotion anymore. It's just now you're starting to feel feelings. And those butterflies in your stomach are like proof of when we don't have our mind anymore, we become something quite beautiful, and that's our feelings.
How to that,
And,
my friend?
and emotions are not feelings. They're different. And this is the last thing I'll say. Humans are skeletons with emotions. And every single time that we have a feeling, we numb it. We never numb our emotions, but we love numbing our feelings. So every
Yeah.
time we start to feel something, we go to the alcohol, we go to the
Yeah.
porn, we go to the porn, we go to the drugs, we go to the TikTok, we go to just scrolling on Twitter. Whenever we start to have real feelings, we just numb it because it's too good. Like it's too much stimuli, it's too much stimulus. But emotions, they have nothing. There's no prana. There's no prana. So this is why humans are in this state of being right now where we're just walking skeletons with emotions. And every time we start to have a feeling, we have a device to numb it. And that device right now is cheap. It's legal. It's free for the most part. And everyone has it and everyone is accepting of it. So when you think about transhumanism and like where this world is going, it's like we're already there.
We are, yeah. That's true. And we don't even realize it. It's like it's becoming such a normality, the new normal, that you're gonna be it was this conspiracy with Bill Gates and like chipping people, and Elon Musk was doing it in the background, and everybody was like, "Yes, Elon Musk, all right," with neural link and everything. So yeah, that's the part. So you already answered like my next question, which was who designed us. Uh,
Who designed us from what perspective?
From the perspective of being here, right now, experiencing this, who designed us? If we are designing, let's say, we are doing cloning and designing structures, who designed us? I'm not speaking religiously,
Yeah.
This is not about religion here, but yeah, we don't want to offend anyone. We don't care, but
yeah.
At the same time, we can talk about it because I'm curious what people think as well, if they have any questions. But this was my next question. So, who do you think designed us?
Well, I mean, all I know is the stories that I've decided to read, and that really is all we're working with here. Whether we talk about the Archon, the Nephilim, or the Jinn, or we start talking about these stories from the Book of Enoch. I mean, really, what I think created us was thoughts. Like I literally think that thought is what created us. So before we started to really develop into this self-aware being, we were already here. And I don't believe in the evolution story of like we were like a tadpole that grew up to be a fucking monkey that's nonsense. But where I'm going with this is we inhabited this place for whatever reason, and we always want to know where we came from as much as we want to know where we were before we were born and where we'll go when we die. That is like the age-old question, right? It's like we live our life so much for outcomes, but we never want to allow the process.
Yeah.
So for me, I've spent a lot of countless hours wondering, was it the Nephilim who made me? you know who fucking made you? Your mom and your dad.
Yeah, that's the closest point.
and just to get a, it's a joke, but it's real. But like the last thing to say, and you probably have heard this on my live streams, but for anyone who's new to this, is when you think of the word matrix, yeah, it's matriz, which means the womb. So that is where you were made. You were made in your mother's womb. And when you look at the mythology story, that's why Earth is always given to this divine feminine. It's Gaia, it's Terra, Tellus. It's always this divine feminine. So she is the womb.
So Earth is like a big womb.
Correct.
Basically.
Earth is literally like a terrarium.
Yeah, and I mean, we have the same percentage of we have the same percentage of water like Earth based on facts. So it's a fractal of up and down.
Right.
All
because we are of Earth. Like we there is no earth without us to perceive it or witness it.
True.
Just like there is no God until our minds create the term God and then start to create a definition.
True. Thank you. Thank you for spitting those beans. It's amazing, man. People here are like, come to Romania, Jordan, on Instagram. When are you coming? Let's go.
I would love to visit because, you know, I've traveled Europe quite a bit, a lot
How is
actually.
the restrictions for US now coming to Europe?
There's still the V restriction until I think it's the TSA said until mid-April, which is funny because like in all of my work that I do, I keep talking about that April eclipse that's going to be happening, like the eclipse that's solar eclipse on April 20th, and then we have a lunar eclipse on May 6th that play a big role into my work. But I think it's funny how the TSA extended that regulation until then, because I know why they're doing it. They're doing it because they're gonna do an event and a ritual of some sort. And anyways, I won't go down that rabbit hole.
But yeah, we don't have to go yet. And I mean, we still have some time, but I still have some questions. And speaking about rituals, do you have morning rituals or evening rituals? What kind of?
Oh, that's awesome that you asked that, because in my expansion mastermind course, I do talk about the anti-routine and how I feel routines are actually problematic. I think like people, we're addicted to routines because we think that structure is what provides us I'll just say this. I'm a very creative person, and I think the beauty of creation is spontaneity, embracing the chaos. So when I used to follow a routine, that structure was going against my creative essence. And when I stopped doing the routine, I noticed that I regained access to my most divine creative essence. So I would embrace the spontaneity of my feelings in that moment, as opposed to the type of person who says, no, I don't want to go. I don't want to feel those feelings. I don't want to do that. I don't want to try that because I have to have a coffee now, a meeting, a conference call. I need to, do the ice bath. I need to do the solfeggio frequencies. I need to eat you see what, like, we are not more advanced individuals because we created more complex schedules. The schedule is binding you to time. And as you said earlier, when we started off this podcast, time is an illusion. So why shackle yourselves to the illusion prison? I rather just flow. And now I understand that some people have a 9-to-5 job, or they have children. Yeah. Their children need to go to school. So in my expansion mastermind, I talk about this very thoroughly, like all the strategies and techniques that people could use, whether it's to implement a routine or to have better scheduling strategies, protocols, techniques. So I'm really open to it because I've been through it too, brother. I used to have a job, and I used to have many jobs. I used to have a life that was very scheduled, but I'm also creative, and creative people have a gift that we tend to disregard that gift because of society's indoctrination. We start this with our children at a very early age. So if I was a father and I had children, I would not give it any of these, structures of time and scheduling. I would just let it embrace its creative essence.
That's what I realized the most when I moved to nature. Coming from a entrepreneurship life, doing like 5 things weekly, having a strict schedule, waking up at 5 a.m., going to bed at 9 to 10. Moving here and being in the flow of nature made me realize that there is no need to rush anymore. But it was like a rude awakening being here and having a lot of things to do, but like also enjoying the process of the natural rhythm of nature, because nature teaches you everything. It teaches you from like morning to evening, everything that you need to know throughout the day. And you find inspiration by observation, by observing nature, as you said in a live that I really enjoyed this saying that It's not language, it's actually observation. And that's when you become nature, when you observe nature.
Right. No,
Yeah.
I totally that's where I learned it the most actually. I did a you're probably well aware. I did this hitchhiking trip around Iceland for almost like a month, maybe a little longer than a month.
Mm.
And all I had was my cell phone as for technology, and I had a backpack, I had a sleeping bag, and I was just washing my clothes in the rivers, and I was staying at campsites. Some of them weren't even real campsites, they were just makeshift. And Iceland is
Pirate camps.
Iceland is very that's a very spontaneous place when it comes to weather. Like you can go from
Oh yeah.
sunny, clear skies to hail and a snowstorm within minutes. So when you don't have a roof over your head, you really need to go with the flow. And I was hitchhiking, so I had to get around the island by just hoping that other people would pick me up. I got to meet people that weren't Icelandic. I got to meet people from all over, and it was just embracing the chaos. Well, I call it chaos, but really what it is synchronicity. Now I look at it like it needed to be. I needed to
Mm.
take that trip at that stage of my life. That person that picked me up on that one hitchhike they needed to pick me up. Like they got something out of being with me. It's like I look at it all like this big dance now where
Yeah.
I'm at today, because I could look back on it with this wisdom and I could apply it accordingly. But I agree with you 1,000,000%. If I wanted to have a routine on that trip, I wouldn't have been able to. Mother Nature would have stripped me naked of that routine.
Yep.
So I actually felt the best in my life in that stage of life, just waking up every day and just seeing what nature and what my feelings had to offer me. And I learned the most too. So it's amazing. Like you don't need YouTube to learn. You don't need books to learn. You need to go within. That is where every piece of information already exists. It's within you.
I love how you go with this flow of answering, and you're basically introducing the next question without me saying it. Because the next question is about trips, but it's more like a psychedelic trip. So, what was your
Mm.
best psychedelic experience? Learning wise, I mean, like,
Yeah.
what were the realization that you had, the aha moments?
Yeah. Um, well, I had one trip where I did 9 grams of golden teachers on an empty stomach. And
Oh, oh.
it was I got to the peak of it, and I this is like hard for me to even talk about because I could feel what I felt then now. Like
Excellent.
that's how serious it was. But so it became timeless, like seriously timeless. And I looked over to a clock on my oven. Like, how like an oven will have like a digital clock on it. I looked
Mhm.
over at the clock because I wanted to prove that time still existed. That's how addicted to time I was. And this is all going
Mm.
to make sense when I'm done explaining. So I looked at the oven and it was all zeroed out. It just said 4 zeros. So then I looked outside of my window and there was nothing. It was just white, pure white, like a like a studio.
Mm.
And I lost my shit. I seriously freaked out because I was like, I just want time back. Because in that moment, you
Mm.
feel like you're never going to go back to the way things were. And what I learned in that experience is even though I'm aware time is an illusion and I could talk all day with my big ego about what I know, I haven't felt being timeless until that moment. See the difference between the emotions and the feelings? So in that moment
Yeah.
when I felt like time didn't exist, oh, I became a man that day.
When was that? What age were you?
It
Do you
was like
remember?
it was probably like 7 or so years ago. I don't believe in age anymore. I don't talk about that. I think that's an extreme limiting belief, and I think too much of us
Hmm.
spellcast ourselves into age. But
Yeah.
beyond that, I needed to go through that moment because I was really tapping into some serious wisdom, and people in my life around me were looking to me for advice and suggestions, and they were picking my brain about things even back then. And
Mm.
I felt very responsible. And I would talk about this Maya, this illusion, and I would talk about time and talk about how we get very fixated on it and we're addicted to it. And in that trip, I learned that I had an addiction to time. So
Oh,
when it was stripped from me, I became minimized. I felt like weak, seriously weak. But through that, you kind of burn, you become ashes, and then you become the phoenix rising from the ashes. Because after the end
mm.
of that trip, at the end of that trip, I went outside and I took a walk, and everything looked beautiful. Like a little flower, I was just staring at for like 10 minutes because I was like, "Oh my God, I get to look at this flower right now." 1 hour ago, I thought I was dead,
Wow.
but now I get to experience this flower, and I was smelling it and I was just like I just was so grateful. And I noticed how ungrateful I was before that trip about everything. I took every day, every hour, every minute for I took advantage of it. I wasn't grateful for Mother Nature as much. Yeah, that trip was beautiful. It was really life changing.
Awesome. Did you do lemon tech or just like normal dried?
Yeah, yeah, it was just dried golden teachers.
Speaking of aha moments, when was your aha moment that we're living in a scam economy? Uh, what were your thoughts? Like, how did you realize that? Yeah, we're like based on the fact that because we can get also into decoding and mythologies here. So what do you think about the economy and how do you think is the financial system running based on your experience with decoding and
Yeah. Well, my first aha moment was learning about the well thing like basic, actually easy to find stuff. I believe if people just want a reference to a documentary or something that makes this all easy to explain,
Mhm.
perhaps something like like the Zeitgeist movie called, I think it's Addendum, the
Mhm.
second Zeitgeist movie. It talks about the banking system. It talks about quantitative easing. It talks about the the Federal Reserve System and central banks and their way of creating money. Like basically that they create money out of thin air, and for every dollar, there's $10 that are being added on top of that dollar. And then there's treasury bonds, and the US dollar being the world reserve currency, and how whenever another country didn't want to adopt that standard, they would essentially go to war with that nation. So
Mm.
there was a lot of that kind of stuff going on, and that led me to another documentary called so I'm just giving this to people because then you don't need to go research information. You could just go find documentaries and then do your due diligence after that. But then the next big profound documentary I watched was Europa: The Last Battle. I talk about that a lot in my work. But in Europa: The Last Battle, I learned about the World War I and World War II scam, which took quite a while to implement this current world order that we're in, this thing we call globalism. So it really started to take off because of what was going on around the creation of the Federal Reserve System. And this goes back to 1913, around World War I, leading into World War II. And then after World War II, it's undeniable. You started to see things show up like double taxing both parties in the household. You saw the cost of living double. You saw the cost of housing double. The creation of the mortgage, upper education costing like excessive amounts of money, the government buying out pretty much everything, the government starting to buy all the real estate. They bought out the upper education. They bought out, or they started to commingle with things that were on the corporate level, which is like the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, the you name it. And then at the same time, you have the creation of intelligence agencies like the CIA. You have all of their branch off agencies, which get really compartmentalized. So the summary of Europa: The Last Battle is you get to learn the bloodline that's perpetuating this. You get to learn that it's all because of the Bolshevik Revolution and the Bolsheviks. And this was a very, very it was an eye-opening thing for me to realize, because so many people, they want to say it's the Jews, or they want to say it's this one thing, and that's all just lower level basic lies. It's not. It's a very particular bloodline of people, and this bloodline has been protected, and it goes back to Sumerian times. And they've created all the laws, all the money, all of the military control, all of the societal structure we have. They create everything. And they are not given the same rules and regulations that we are as a society. They don't need passports. They don't need a social security numbers. They don't need tax identification numbers. They don't need paperwork to go start a business. They don't need to ask for loans. They just get it. And you see that this bloodline is not Jewish. They don't practice Judaism. They actually follow the Kabbalah. They're Kabbalists. And when you start really seeing deep into it, what you learn is they are magicians. They're wizards and warlocks, and people think magic is fake. It ain't. The people who rule this world are literally high-level priestesses and empress, and they are serious when it comes to this stuff. And now you got to remember, that's the easiest way to control people, is you control them on a spiritual and a conscious level, and you do it remotely. You don't need to be in the same room as them. You do it remotely. And things like Hollywood play a big role into this, which, again, Hollywood is just part of the Central Intelligence Agency. And you see that the Central Intelligence Agency is also NASA. And then the same agency is creating the same structure and rule for your school system. So they're the ones that are setting the curriculum. They're taking children and they're putting them through this indoctrination system that sets them up for all of this brainwashing. And it's magic, brother. It's literally spell casting wizardry. And this is all coming from one particular bloodline of people. And they have, and then what's a beautiful thing about Europa, the Last Battle, is you get the other side of the story. You get the side of the story.
The his story.
You get the other side of the story, which we don't get told in school, you know? And when you really, really come to this place today and you start to diagnose why, I'll say this, okay? This is the last thing I'll say. Why is it that the whole world can boycott Russia? The whole world, including corporations. You know, during the Ukraine-Russia thing, I was waking up every day and a new company was changing their profiles to say, we stand with Ukraine. The whole fucking world can boycott Russia, but why can't anyone boycott Israel? Because your real Silicon Valley is not in California. It's in Israel. What really runs this technocratic World Wide Web is not California. It is Israel. And Israel is not Jewish. Israel is Zionist. They are Bolsheviks. They are the antithesis of holy Judaism. In Judaism, they would never arm their people with guns. They're against violence. So I have a really big issue with people who talk negatively about Judaism when they're unaware of this Zionism part of the conversation. So when you see the implementation of this whole scam going from the 1930s into today, you're going to see how this, I know I keep saying this is it, but like, it's just, I could just keep going forever.
There are like layers and layers and layers.
Yeah, there's so many layers, and people are probably like, what does this have to do with the economy? Well, it's like, this is the infrastructure of global economics.
Yeah.
So that's just it. I mean, if you have any specific questions built off of that, I could go deeper into it without dragging.
I actually do, and it's regarding the laws that are governing these structures. And I was thinking about talking about a bit maritime law and the law of land regarding that, so we can connect it with this as well.
Okay, so the reason we are operating under maritime law, maritime commerce law, is because we're in the age of Pisces, which is the age of Jupiter. It is ruled by Jupiter, and when they call Satan Saturn, they don't know what they're talking about. Saturn is about the land. That is where we want to be. We want to go back to the age ruled by Saturn. So what is the next age we're moving into? Aquarius, which is ruled by Saturn. This is why they're doing all this rituals and shit right now, to set us up to know who's going to behave and who's not going to behave. It has everything to do with obedience. People like me and you and everyone who's listening to this right now, when we're under the age of Saturn, we become divine. We become fucking unstoppable. When we're in this age of Jupiter, we are learning all of our lessons. We're learning what we are not here in this age of Jupiter. But with Jupiter, this is everything to do with the symbology behind him. So if you look at the symbols of Jupiter, you have the lightning bolt, you have the oak tree, and you have the eagle. And the eagle is behind all the symbology you're getting with the Third Reich, with the and it goes into all of the sigils, all the sigil magic throughout the Vatican, throughout the Switzerland. You name it. When you really start diving deep into the sigils, you'll see that is all tied into these royal families. It's tied into these bloodlines that I was speaking on earlier. But just to be exoteric, we have the United States of America, which our logo is the bald eagle. That's actually, you know who the bald eagle is? It's Mercury. It's Hermes. So the bald eagle symbolism that you're getting, it's actually Hermes. It's Thoth. So this goes really deep back into the mythologies, and that's what this is all based on anyways. So let's just quickly go back to the oak tree. This is why humanity is controlled and governed by paperwork. If you want to go travel, you need to apply for a passport. You need paperwork. You need a visa. If you're born in a hospital, you're getting paperwork, a birth certificate, a social security card. When we were in the age of Saturn, we did not have that bullshit. But now in this age of Pisces with Jupiter, we literally need paperwork to even exist and to have privilege on this earth. We don't have any privilege until we're given paperwork. So it's funny. I make this joke. It's not that we have white privilege. It's not that we have wealthy privilege. It's not that we have skinny privilege or attractive privilege. There's no such thing as white privilege. There's paperwork privilege.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's so true, man. And
because you could be a white, beautiful man with all the money in the world. And if you don't have a fucking passport, somebody who is black, who has no money, and who's barely scraping by with that passport can be given rights and privilege to go travel. So where's the white privilege? There is no fucking white privilege. It's called paperwork privilege. And that's a huge right. The right to be mobile, the rights to your own mobility, your travel rights. You're not allowed to have them unless you get some documentation. So this is really important that people understand the age we're in. The age of Pisces is everything. And if you want to look at the symbols behind the age of Pisces, it'll start to all make sense to you. And the age before this, we had a different energy. And they had to sever the ties to that energy when we moved into the new age. This is why in the when you start studying the Bible with the Old Testament, New Testament, Moses was like denouncing the bull, and that's Taurus. He was basically saying, kill anyone who worships the bull. Well, because they moved into a new age, and you're not allowed to worship the old symbols. So today, they force us to worship the symbols of our age. And if we don't worship it, they do it unconsciously on the subconscious level. They make you think that the eagle stands for freedom. No, it doesn't.
Well,
it stands for your enslavement until you've been given paperwork. So that's the truth of all truths. And I don't even the maritime commerce law thing. I believe I cleared a lot up for people that isn't spoken about, because you can go learn about maritime admiralty law. You could learn about that, and then we would have to go into a whole separate discussion. But I rather give people the reason why we're not operating under the sovereign system and why they have us forced into this current system. Now I gave a lot of the foundation to it.
But if you know the law, you can become sovereign in paperwork as well and have your own law. Actually, and correct. You can do it lawfully.
Right.
It's crazy, but people don't
Yeah,
really
you
research.
use paperwork against them. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. That's it's like this is what I'm researching now. I'm working on getting paperwork to become a sovereign being, and also have a business, and also travel, and also do certain like and have a car or a vehicle on my name, on
Right.
my like sovereign
Right.
rights. So for all of you that are thinking that you're like under any laws, it's like a fake law. It's like a corporation law. The state is a corporation. It's not
Correct.
a. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's a big company. It's a big company. It's a big conglomerate. Like there is nothing about a nation in this earth right now that is separate besides the flag.
Yeah.
The flag is the only thing that gives the illusion of separation of these nations. But when you learn the truth, you'll see they're all tied in and actually governed by the United Nations. The United Nations is their daddy. Whether you're Romanian, whether you're from Serbia, whether you're from the United States, Barbados, Iceland, it's all coming back to the United Nations. And then it goes even deeper because then it comes back to the Vatican. All of this paperwork privilege that I spoke about, it goes back to the Vatican. The Vatican is the paperwork. They're like the file cabinet for all the paperwork.
Thank you for your complex answer. I think people are like taking notes. If not, you're gonna have this recorded, guys. So don't worry, be happy. Speaking about the daddy, and I know that there is a subject around Romania as well now that is very hot regarding Andrew Tate, and you were speaking also about this gentleman that he's like the daddy for a lot of people. Why are people attracted to idols or public figures? Why do they put on a pedestal like other people? Why do you think? What's your
Yeah.
opinion about it?
Yeah. So it's really because humans like being led.
Mm.
Humans like having their decisions and choices made for them by default. And this plays into the weak ego. I speak on the ego a lot from a very unique perspective. And it's not that the ego needs to be killed. See, that's exactly what the guru wants. Because when the guru puts you through the ego death, now you're easy to manipulate. You don't want to kill your ego. You want to stop feeding your ego. That's the difference. The ego doesn't have a digestive system. It doesn't need to eat.
Oh.
So stop feeding your ego with pride. And that
Yeah.
takes coming into a unity consciousness. So this is it. When the ego is damaged, it's susceptible to being a follower. So when you have a weak ego, you are naturally fulfilling the role of a follower. And a follower wants to be led. A follower wants to be told what to do, and it will be obedient. The one who has a strong ego is what we call the leader, the one who makes the decisions, the one who makes choices. It is the chosen one. The chosen one is not selected by God. The chosen one is the one who makes the choice. So you have to become the one. And the one has a strong ego. The one realizes that the ego was the portal to intuition. It is the one who makes their decisions based on how they feel, not based on how someone else feels, not because of the way the collective feels. So this is really important for people to realize. It comes back into this idea of sovereignty. The reason people like Andrew Tate is because they have daddy issues, and we all have them. But I'm just being real with people right now. And when there's a father figure energy that shows up, the ones who follow, they take on that prana. They're willing and open to this person's rules and regulations and the fine print of their contract. Have you noticed the cult of personality in Andrew Tate? He is amazing at manipulation.
Yeah. Of course.
He's so sophisticated.
He knows what he's doing, of course.
He knows what he's doing. He's taking it out of the playbook that goes back to all of these apex predators. So my thing about every single influencer is it's not that the influencer is evil or they're a demon, or I'm not going to demonize them. I'm not going to do that. It's up to the individual. What we need to do as individuals is you believe in yourself and you resonate with everything else. That is a huge part of the strong ego. The strong ego is just believing in self as the one, and then it looks at everything else to extract some data. Now, you take the things that Andrew Tate that says that resonate with you and you leave everything else. But the problem with the follower, but the one with the damaged ego, is they take everything Andrew Tate says as like the word of Jesus Christ. They're treating him like a Jesus Christ. And if you read the Gospel of Thomas, if you listen to the Gospel of Thomas on an audiobook, you're going to see that Jesus wanted you to be self-reliant. He didn't want you to follow him. He wanted you to listen to your God within. And this was like a red pill. You know, his followers couldn't take it. So that's why they never put that shit in the Bible.
All right.
And that came out way before the Bible did. Way before. You know? So, I mean, we don't have to get religious now. I'm just saying that it's coming back to the tenets of the reason why people join religions, or why religion works so well. Because religion is a group of obedient followers who just take on the words and contract of another person's belief system, another person's mind palace. A real leader never wants to be followed. A real leader never wants to be agreed with. A real leader wants to speak to the ears of leadership. It wants to speak to you as if they see the leader in you.
Exactly. That's what we're doing here at Farm of Consciousness. We're kind of creating spaces for people to become the leader, you know, become the leader of a practice, be in a circle, speak your truth, like become the one, become Neo, you know?
And if you listen to Andrew Tate, the way that he develops his strategy is he tells you that you cannot be sovereign without his teachings, without him. You cannot and he says this, right? He says, you can't break free from the matrix unless you go through my university, unless you listen to what I have to say, unless you believe what I believe. That's called brainwashing. That's manipulation. He's trying to tell you that it's only through his strategies and his terms and conditions that you're going to be capable of breaking through this so-called matrix. Now, what I tell people is the matrix is not outside of you. It's not your 9-to-5 job. The matrix is not you having to pay taxes. The matrix is not the prison system. The matrix is not your iPhone. The matrix, you know what it is? You are the matrix.
Yes, I was just telling people that you are it, man. You can do everything. You're the coder and decoder at the same time. You're the code itself, decoding itself.
Right.
Yeah.
So I tell people this all the time. Go back into your code, wipe it clean from the stuff that has you tethered to someone else's belief systems, and rewrite the code so that way you're the programmer instead of somebody programming you.
Now, how to that, my friend? Amazing. Amazing. How is the Instagram going? Andrew Tate, Dark Consciousness Abomination. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, and I hope people pay attention to the one part I said about there's gonna be things that he says that you might resonate with. And I'm not telling you to disregard that. This is the beauty of truth, because it would be unfair for me to say, don't consume what Andrew Tate. I don't care what people want to consume. I would never want to push people away from anyone, because I think that there's something beautiful to be said by all people. And we just need to be a little bit more in unity with it all, rather than this person's my leader. This person's they even say this about Andrew Tate. He's the father that we didn't know we needed. It's like, are you serious?
It's like it's saying the truth without knowing that you're like doing it.
Yeah, it's quite interesting how I just look at all these influencers as part of a big experiment. They're all just a part of a big experiment.
Just a second, because Kai wants outside. Excuse me. Yeah, I'm gonna like it takes 30 seconds. All right, bye. How's it going, fam? Still here in the now. How much time do we have left? Like around 20 minutes?
We could freestyle it and see where it goes. And
yeah. There was a question in the Zoom, I reckon. Someone asked about what is your opinion about Era Versator is like Aquarius age. What's your perception about it? Is it already happening? We're getting into it. What do you think about the light photons? Are we going through 100,000 kilometers through space?
Well, okay, I'll say this. The new age happens when the collective consciousness shifts, and that requires the self to make that shift. So it's when the shift is happening within you, this is when it will like, if you think about what I said at the start of this interview, if we had 1% of the world go out and do what you were doing by having a small community, you think 1% of the global population, and then 4 people for every one of those people, because you said there was 3 people that were joining you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something like this. I mean, dude, what would that number be? Right?
You think 144,000.
So the point here is that it takes a small amount to actually destabilize the mind control and what's going on right now. And there needs to be somewhat of a physiological end to the obedience in order for us to move into the more. But it starts with us on the individual level, on a spiritual level, having no fear. You must become fearless on the individual level for you to even have the outlook that, oh, I need to stop what I'm doing in my life and I need to go on this path. And this path might require me to go buy some land. It might, you see how important that is? Mm-hmm. It's about the enslavement of the mind. And you can't break free from this enslavement unless you relinquish your fear. So the whole fear mechanism that's playing in here is why people believe so much externally and they do not believe in themselves. When you let go of the fear of the outside, and you don't worry anymore about tomorrow or hold on to the traumas of yesterday, you become present, and there you become fearless. And you no longer look at the choices you make as risks. You look at them as something you just have to do. It needed to be done. It's not a risk. There's nothing I could lose if tomorrow doesn't exist. It only is a risk if you believe there's a consequence of the tomorrow. So we need that to be first. In order for people to start making choices and decisions, as I said earlier, the chosen one is not selected by God. It's the one who makes the choice. So you select your election. You promote yourself. Now, this process is what leads us into what we call the new age. It's not some metaphysical change. It's not some like shift into 5D. That's nonsense. That's a new age psyop to play the waiting game. And this is what they love doing.
Yeah.
Just like you wait for the shift into 5D, the same way they got you to wait for Jesus Christ to come. It's the same shit. And people need to break free from that. Use this now moment to be instead of waiting. So the age of Aquarius and all of these ideas, they're philosophical concepts and they start with self. But it's about this awareness and this consciousness. And the more times we come together and we talk about these things in this particular format, it's going to be the fire under people to start believing in themselves more and to start seeing that they have the power. It's not your military. It's not your politicians, your government. They have no power. They have the illusion of power that we give them with our belief. We need to take that back. And when we take that back fearlessly and ruthlessly, and embody our genuine creative essence on a self level, that is the new age.
All right. Excellent.
So you can be going through a shift into the age of Aquarius now within you. But your next door neighbor could still be in Taurus.
Yeah.
like a fucking age behind this age. That's how real this shit is. It's like in your DNA. You understand?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like
It's
it's literally
within. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's like within your DNA. So I think that's why I'll say I think this is a funny thing to talk about, and perhaps you'll resonate with this. But I get
Mm.
asked the question all the time, like, when do you feel you woke up? And I tell people, like, I feel like I
I
was,
was always.
yeah, I tell them I feel like I was born with like antivirus software. Like nothing at any age can control me. And that's
Yeah,
why I had a hard time in school. I had a hard time. I just have a hard time behaving. And it was because I felt it was wrong intuitively. Like my heart felt wrong. I felt weird holding up my hand to ask a question. I felt weird asking for permission to go use the bathroom. I felt weird walking in a single file line to go through from class to class. I felt weird how um if I didn't want to stand during the Pledge of Allegiance, because I don't think you guys would do that in Romania, but we do that here in the United States. They have us stand up in class and
yeah, yeah,
pledge.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We didn't have that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, wait 1 second, okay?
Yeah, sorry.
Imagine, just think about this. Close your eyes. I want everyone to close your eyes.
Yeah.
Imagine you are in that classroom right now and you have left your body and now you're on the sidelines and you're looking at 30 children holding their hand over their heart up to the flag, and they are saying a spell to this flag, performing a ritual as children in synchronicity. They're synchronized in saying this spell. And now I just want you to imagine they're wearing all white. They're just all wearing the
Mm.
same color clothing. Would that not look to you like a cult?
The biggest.
It would literally look like a cult ritual. If you were walking by that and you saw 30 children looking up to a flag, all saying the same thing in synchronicity, the only thing that makes it not look like a cult is the fact that they might be wearing different clothing. But if you go to a school where the school has to wear a uniform, then it just looks like a fucking straight up cult. So for me, at a very early, I stopped standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would get detention. They would get mad at people would get mad at me. You know what they would say? They would say, you're disrespecting our military. You're disrespecting the people who died for your freedom. What?
Wow.
What the
Wow.
It's 7 a.m. and you want me to stand up and pray to this flag like I'm praying like it's a god. I don't believe in this flag. This flag has killed and controlled and manipulated and raped and stolen and destroyed nations. I knew at a very early age that this is demonic to have us do this practice.
Hmm.
But you see, this is like I had that antivirus software in me at like a soul level.
Mm.
But I think some people, they're still stuck in an age that's like past Pisces. Like they're so far gone. I know in some people's work, like Gurdjieff and Spensky, like they talk about the fourth way and this idea that the average man, just most men, are like walking like zombies, like they're in a sleep state, like they're in a conscious sleepwalking state. And if you were to talk to them with these words, it would be too much. The frequency would be catastrophic for them. You know, it would be
It
like
would
they,
be like a rude awakening.
yeah, it would be like somebody who's from Iceland going to India and eating like the spiciest natural, like, you know, the food that they have. They would just be like, it would give them a stomach ache. They wouldn't be able to eat it. They would be taking shits all night. Like that's what it's like when somebody who has this level of consciousness is trying to integrate with the Walking Dead. It's on completely different wavelengths. So when I was a child and I had to deal with that, it was a struggle for me because I haven't developed the speaking abilities yet to defend myself. I didn't have the ability to articulate why I didn't want to stand during that ritual. I didn't have
Mm.
the ability to, you see why that's so important. So if we can teach our sons and daughters to defend ourselves during that moment without being aggressive. You don't need to be aggressive. You just need to be tactful. You need to be sophisticated. But if we can
Yeah.
teach it, and what would be even better is don't send your kids to that fucking indoctrination camp, right? But
Yep.
if you're somebody who's already, maybe you're just waking up right now, maybe it's, 2020 was the thing that set you off to making these changes, and your kids are 6, 7, 8 years old already, you have to make a conscious decision how you're going to help them through this shift, because they're the seed and soil of you and your partner. They are you. Their consciousness is, it's something infinite. Their consciousness is from eternity, but they're still being pushed in a direction of truth or
Yeah.
obedience. So
Purist.
you have to make a decision, as a leader in your household.
Some people are asking on Instagram, how potent are the symbols and how can we use them? Example, the Aquarius age symbols.
Well, when it comes to symbology, the thing that I always say is no symbol is evil, no symbol is good. Symbols have the power that we give them. So when you give the power to the symbol, that is how powerful it could be. So if you look at the pentagram sometimes it's called a symbol of Satanism or the devil, but it isn't. It's actually a sign of protection. And now another thing is, if you're unconscious to this, then you just need to remember what I'm about to say. Use their symbols against them. And the way that you do this is by not attaching a negative or positive emotion onto any symbols moving forward. Completely disengage from that, because that's what they want out of you. They want you to make a belief system around good and bad. And that's not nature. Nature does not have good and bad, ever. Nothing about nature could be categorized as good and bad. That is the mind of man deciding that. But Mother Nature is going to flood at one point, and us as humans are going to go, oh, fuck, this sucks. This is bad. No, it isn't. It's bad for you, but it's not bad naturally. It is what it is. And that flood is exactly what Mother Nature needed to do, to perpetuate the progress and to reset the impurities. And who made those impurities? Us. So everything about nature is symbiotic. It's in harmony. Humans are the only thing that are destabilizing to that. But we could become back in harmony with nature. We have to learn these ways. And I believe somebody like you is on that path, and that's a beautiful thing. So about the symbols, I think what people want with an answer to this is the least sexy response I could possibly give, which is that as you're learning the symbols, just protect yourself from the good and bad thing. That's what happens a lot with people. And if you can start there, then you could really start to learn what the symbols mean. And you could decode further. I've said this plenty of times. It's actually important that we learn how to decode symbolism before we learn how to decode with things like gematria or numerology. If we could, decoding symbolism would be a lot more effective in your journey towards being able to not get subconsciously programmed by what's being projected onto us. So when we're looking at the television, Hollywood, when we're looking at any of that stuff, that's all programming you with symbolism.
Yeah.
And one of the easiest ways to do this, to learn about the symbols, is go look at the zodiac symbols. Go look at them all and then tie them back to their mythologies. You can see the sign ruler, and then you could learn about the mythology of that sign ruler. And you could learn about Saturn. You could learn about Kronos. You could learn about it all the way back to Geb in ancient Egypt. And just keep doing your study on the mythologies, because the mythologies are everything. And I say this because too many people who get into astrology readings and doing zodiac and the charts, I've talked with a lot of these people, some of them at the professional level, and they know nothing about the astrology. They know nothing about the mythology, excuse me. So they're lacking the foundational principles of where we even got these hierarchies or these categorizations. So I don't want to get too complicated here, but I believe if people want to learn more about the symbols, just go back to the origins of where this is all stemming from, and it's going to come back to some sort of deity, some sort of god, and you're going to be able to learn a lot from that.
Amazing, man. Somebody's saying that Jordan should make a course about symbolism, and I know that you are planning to do that, right? Something regarding the mythology, like
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. It's probably going to be an esoterica course because I've already done one for crypto. I did one for trading. I did one for my recent one, the expansion mastermind, which I feel like the world really told me that I needed to make that because it's all about mindset. It's all about a lot of this stuff regarding, the free mind and how to get back, the ego and strengthen it and rebuild the damage that it's gone through the indoctrination system and through a lot of the spiritualism stuff that we tend to get into, right? Because there's so
yeah.
many people, they move from religion when they're born and then they enter a new cult. And then after they leave that cult, they they join the new age. And in the new age, they get oof,
Oh
that,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that's a real devastating path for many. And they're just leaving one thing for the next thing. And my whole thing is to break free from all of that. And I think that expansion mastermind course was motivated by that, to have people be their own leader instead of being caught into the, vortex of some other leaders' belief systems. And then the next thing I'm going to come out with is going to be that esoterica course. It's going to talk a lot about decoding. So it's going to give a lot of backbone and structure to people who want to learn how to do gematria, and do numerology and teach about the numbers in a way that connects it to so many things. It'll be very, very interactive as well. So I did that with my expansion mastermind course where I made it a little bit more interactive. I had like tasks that I wanted you to do, and I wanted you to journal throughout it, and I wanted to make it so it was almost like a class. So whatever I do with the gematria or esoterica course, it's going to be about tons of symbolism, mythology, all of that. I need some time to structure it. I've been very, very active lately in my work, and I haven't been dedicating as much to that, but I'll have that ready by 2023.
You're doing amazing, man, and thank you for doing so much self-work on yourself so you can share with others what you've been through and what your realizations are. You're an inspiration for all of us. So thank you. Thank you for being.
That means the world to me, man.
Some of us here on Zoom asked, do you have some good reads on mythology?
To be completely honest, I'm sure there's a lot of great stuff out there, but I have to admit, and I know this is shocking to a lot of people, but I don't read books.
Excellent. Me neither.
I have a very hard time reading for entertainment. I've learned that like what happens to me is I'll start reading and by the first page I'll be looking at my guitar in the corner and I'm like, oh, I just want to play that guitar. Like it's like all I want to do is play music. So I'm like the guy who writes the books. I have a hard time reading them. But I have taken a little bit of time out of my last year or so to dive into some audiobooks. And I know they're not the same experience, but I'm just having a lot of trouble with consuming content because I don't like being influenced by other creators when I'm in a creative flow. So it's the same thing as a musician. If I'm trying to write music and I'm listening to, and I'll make it really simple for people. I'm a guitar player. So if I listen to other guitar players, it's natural that I'll be inspired by that and I'll start to take on some of what they do naturally. And I don't like doing that. So when I want to get inspired to make a song on guitar, I'll go listen to a piano player, or I'll listen to an opera, or I'll listen to a hip hop artist. I'll listen to a Kendrick Lamar song. And as I'm listening to Kendrick and his flow is actually helping me with developing my melody, but on my guitar. And then it becomes this whole new animal. And to me, that's what I like to do. If I want to be inspired to write music, I'll watch a movie. And the movie will move me. It'll move me to making this art. And I do the same thing with my courses. So I fear sometimes, and this is a limiting belief, but it's helped me thus far. Sometimes limiting beliefs do help you, like creating boundaries. I guess we should call it boundaries. I don't like watching other people's content too much regarding decoding or talking about mythology or talking about any of that because it's too inspiring. I rather make my own connections and make everything up through my own research. So to give people an answer of how I've been learning about mythology, it's mostly just using the internet. It's mostly just search engine stuff, and then taking stuff and connecting it. I'm much more of a matchmaker.
Yeah.
I like decoding the relationship everything has rather
Connecting
than,
the dots. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So like more like a detective. Because what
Mhm.
happens is some people, when they start learning about Saturn, all they'll learn about is one interpretation of Saturn. And what I've done is I'll just take the key points of all of it throughout all the cultures and I'll see how it's all connected. And then I'll go, okay, where's the relationship? Where's the similarities? And why did every culture that are thousands of years apart come to the same deity and have the same answers and same mythological background behind them, what they were causing, and even the age that it ruled in? So you can do that as simple as just using basic internet, but I am well aware there's probably like a Manly P. Hall book or somebody out there that has awesome content, and I just couldn't help you with that. I'm sorry, I don't read.
Yeah, actually, I've read Manly P. Hall and also Initiation in Hermetism by Franz Bardon, and they're like pretty sick. But it takes like a couple of times to read them through, like on chapters, because it's like hard to take.
Right.
It's
That's
super
that's
complex.
actually a practice that I've been doing. I'm about to decode Genesis, not the whole thing, but just a part, the first page of the book of Genesis, and it's going to be super deep because I'm going to tie in all the mythological connections to it and the gematria and the numerology. And I'm going to show you how this shit could not have been planned by man. We're talking
Mm.
number connections that are so significant down to prime numbers, Fibonacci's. It's going to be wild. But that decode that I'm working on, what it's helped me with is I'll take one line from the Bible and I'll just think about that all day, or Genesis, sorry. So I'll
Mm-hmm.
just take one line of Genesis and that's all I'll pay attention to. It'll be like my mantra for the day and I'll decode it as I'm thinking about it. And this has just been such an amazing practice for me because I'm learning that you could extract so much wisdom without over consuming. It's like
Mm.
when you eat a tree ripened peach, or a tree ripened apple, and you bite into that and you really just stop thinking and you just enjoy the bite that you're taking and really just allow yourself to be like engulfed in that feeling, you're extracting so much more prana than somebody who's on their lunch break and they only have 30 minutes before they go back to work and they got to scarf down this food and they're not even consciously eating. They're just,
Mm.
it's like they're not even enjoying their food. It's the same thing with sex. People just have sex and all they want to do is come. They don't even want to fucking make love anymore. And we're doing everything for outcomes, and this is destroying our presence. So I've learned this about book reading. Too many people read too much shit and they don't take away any utility from what they read. Sure,
Hmm.
you read 100 books, but there's no utility of what you read besides you just saying, I completed a book. To me, it's not the way. Like, I rather take a page of something, really meditate on it, really absorb what it has to give me. And that practice has allowed me to walk away with real life utility. And, damn, the book of Genesis is just packed with that stuff. It has so much like so much deep stuff that, wow, these people who designed this were very wise. They were probably of the Hermetic order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, druids.
Precisely.
Yeah. One last question, because it's 45, and I know that you have another meeting.
Yeah, yeah, I do have to catch another meeting in 15 minutes.
But this is a favorite question of the day, at least my favorite question. What is your favorite conspiracy theory? And I know people love it so much because it's a CIA
yeah, yeah,
concept.
yeah.
So
My
visit.
favorite. Can you give me a list? Because I'm so separated from what I even consider to be a conspiracy. Can you give me a list of a couple conspiracy theories that you would consider to be stuff people know about?
Yeah,
Like Gulf of Tonkin. Like what do we mean by conspiracy
we're
theory?
yeah, we're speaking about maybe the moon landing, Earth is flat.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let's say another conspiracy would be 9/11.
Right. Okay.
And that kind of like very in your face, maybe
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
also C19 was
Yeah.
but experiencing like maybe reading, because there were more conspiracy theories before
For
it
sure.
was the
Yeah.
conspiracy theory, you know. There were a lot
Yeah.
of
Like,
experiments that happened in the past with like scientists that made like really did some really hardcore experiments on people and because that's where they wanted to see how people behave, how people
right.
react to things. So
Yeah.
have you read about any, or no,
So
you don't read?
I would say that my favorite is the sequence between 9/11 moving into coronavirus, because that was the fulfillment of that particular ritual. And this is like something thorough that I could get into to wrap up this interview. So the 9/11 ritual was the removal of the towers of Yakin and Boaz. And then this energy of the 1-1, the two towers, was shuttled into Tower 7, which is the 117 or the 711. And then this energy that took place of this controlled demolition, it was channeled into the pentagon, which is the pentagram. And if you study magic and magic rituals, you'll know how this was all unfolding from a ritual perspective. So they used planes, which has to do with air symbolism. The air symbolism goes to Aquarius. Okay. So this was ushering in this so-called new age, or the transition into the new age. We have Tower 1 and Tower 2, the pillars, Yakin and Boaz, into Tower 7. 7 is the number of the Kabbalists. It's their favorite number. This was during a Shemitah year, and the Shemitah is a 7-year cycle. And if we see Tower 7 had no involvement of anything, it just came down like a pancake, you know. And then that energy that moved into the Pentagon was proof of the capturing of that energy. It was the vessel to capture it all, and then they ended it. Now, if we go back into the further cycles of 2020, this is amazing to think about how they gave us a coronavirus. They gave us a crown virus, the virus of the crown chakra. So this virus that they did was another ritual at that level. It's much deeper than people could ever imagine. And it was air symbolism. Again, this was, you even hear people like Donald Trump being like, it's an invisible enemy. They would say the germs get spread through the air. It was a virus of the air. All right. So this is amazing that they're using this air symbolism on both of these events. And we are now seeing the signs of moving into what we want to call Aquarius. This crown virus was to basically disengage you from your access to the ether, to the spirit realm. And for those of us that are here today, this crown was actually placed on your head when it was taken off of someone else's. It was a transition of power. This was a great wealth transfer, they called it. You know what that wealth is? That's called you leveling up to the next, your spirit leveled up. You became the best version of yourself because of 9/11 and because of coronavirus. So I love these so-called conspiracy theories, and a lot of people get mad and they hate the elites because of 9/11 and because of COVID. And I absolutely think the opposite, because if you think about what helped you to become more enlightened, more illumined, it was that ritual. That psyop made you better. It made you stronger. It made you more resilient. It made you a better lover. It made you a better friend. It made you a better teacher. It made you you. We needed 9/11. We needed COVID. It made you beautiful. Okay. It took away the facade. It took away the fake part of you. It took away the part of you that was pretending.
Masks.
Now you have to be real. Exactly. They told you to put on a mask and you said, fuck that. You couldn't be fake. You couldn't be fake during that time because so this is important that people see it as all of these so-called things that the elite do. They might be damaging and negative and might feel like pain for a moment, but what it really does to us is it just makes us level up. It's always leveling up. And the next thing they do, you'll level up even more. And you'll actually be welcoming this chaos. You welcome it now because you know it's needed for you to expand whilst the masses continue to contract.
And to end the cycle, 9/11 and 2022 was 222 months away from each other, as far as I remember. You decoded that.
Correct.
You found that, like, and I was like,
And it was the same.
holy
It was
shit.
the same thing with me figuring out that for the most part that the pandemic would be over by May of 2022, or
Yeah.
sorry, May of 2020. Yeah. So the connection there was 2 years, 2 months, and 2 days, and it was into the 222 year. This number 222 is really powerful. It's transformative, but this year we're in now is going to be hard, I think, for a lot of people. We're going to see a lot of relationship problems, a lot of issues with communication. A lot of people, you're being forced into your tribe right now. You know, you're being forced into the real friends. You're being forced into the real relationships, and what that might cause for people is being separated from fake love, from conditional love, from the artificial things that keep you together.
Codependency.
And that's right, exactly. So there's something beautiful about that, but this year's, I think, going to be very, very transformative for people. It's going to be lots of big life changes.
I'll hold to that,
Maybe
my
we
friend.
maybe we could talk about that on another podcast.
Yes. Thank you all for being here on Instagram and Zoom. Thank you, Waters, for taking part into this wormhole togetherness where we brainstormed and created peace into a tornado with love and pure presence. If you want to embark into Jordan's experience, you can follow him on YouTube, Waters Above. He has some courses. They're linked to his website, watersabove.com. They're based on decoding, also expanding the consciousness. So you have 3 courses, right? Expansion Mastermind and a Mastermind trading course, right? And
Yeah, and
the
a couple
advanced.
ones on crypto.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have
So
a beginner level one on, and I urge everyone, if you're enjoying this kind of stuff, then join us tomorrow on my live stream. I'll be doing a live stream tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's probably going to be like 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours long. And I just hang out and I answer questions. So if you guys want to come hang out, it would be beautiful. I might be a little late for you over in Romania, but cool thing to tune into during or after dinner, maybe.
thank you. Shout out to all the decoders. Shout out to all the communities that are around the world. And also shout out to the wolves from your Discord. You're amazing. You're doing an amazing work, especially in the technical analysis chat. I learned a lot from you guys. Yeah, good luck. Have fun with whatever you're doing, wherever you're doing. And see you on the other side, as always. Thank you, Jordan.
Of course, much love.
Peace out, family. And we're done.